This is the pre-recording of our third tutorial summary with the topic of ethical, inclusive, and sustainable practices. We aim for each summary recording to support our students in the internship, encouraging them to engage in a discussion and interactive 5 tutorial classes, and to share experiences and information during their internship with the support of a career consultant for feedback at the same time. My name is Bita Zaferanloo, a senior lecturer and unit convener of Professional Internship, and with me we have Liz Crosara, a career consultant. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, the Wurundjeri people of Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Today's ethical practice snapshot will unpack good work, ethics, inclusion, and sustainability, frameworks and context for ethical practices, acting ethically in the workplace. Why are we looking at ethical workplace practices today? And what does it have to do with your internship? Understanding ethical work practices are essential and help us to become informed professionals. In observing the practices of where we work or intern, we can consider how it aligns to our values and principles. And in considering job opportunities, we can research the ethical practices of potential employers and decide if they are a good fit. Working for an unethical employer can be a difficult and sometimes unpleasant experience. So it's worth knowing how to recognize and evaluate ethical or unethical work practices. The idea of good work stems from 15 years of research by 3 Harvard professors who found that most workers aim to do good work. This work was defined as doing something that matters, serves society, enhances the lives of others, and it is performed ethically. Good work needs to meet the 3 E's: excellence, of a high quality; engagement, something that is personally meaningful; and ethics, performed in an ethical, socially responsible manner. Good work helps us to define elements of ethical practice, but let's look at a couple of definitions.
What do these 3 terms mean when we talk about ethics, inclusion, and sustainability? Ethics relates to our moral principles, our personal standards of right or wrong, and it's really about acting with truth, fairness, and honesty, essentially doing the right thing. Inclusion, in this sense of the word, is supporting a commitment to equal participation, particularly in respect to diversity. It's about ensuring everyone is included and represented, and welcoming others with different backgrounds, capabilities, and beliefs. And lastly, when we talk about sustainability, we are looking at workplace practices that have minimal negative impact on the environment. So it's about striking a balance between the planet, the people, and profits for long-term success in all areas. An organisation's ethical commitments are embedded into their workplace practices and their professional identity via an ethical framework. The framework is a statement of the values, purpose, and principles of the organisation. It covers their beliefs and the standards that they hold themselves to. It also serves as a roadmap for the organisation's decision-making around business practices, which in turn informs an organisation's professional branding and reputation. Organisational values, principles, and culture enable employees to distinguish between good and bad decisions. These core ideals will help frame business activity, underpin its decision-making, and ensure it stays true to its purpose. So the ethical framework of the organisation plays an important role. Workplace practices will often be formalised with a code of ethics, code of conduct, or some other document that will act as the guiding set of principles for the organisation across all levels from management downwards. Code of ethics will often be based on what a person or organisation ought to do rather than something mandated by law. In addition, consider the legal frameworks and corporate documents that act to regulate ethical practice. Set laws will define how a business may legally operate, for example, regardless of ethical workplace practice. Professional standards will act to guide a specific profession and how it operates, guiding its systems and procedures to ensure it operates ethically. Think about how some professions have very defined standards. A teacher, for example, will have defined boundaries about how they may interact with their students, just as a doctor will also work to a defined patient-doctor relationship. These frameworks play an important part in helping us determine if an organisation aligns with our values. If we go back to the DOTS model from an earlier tutorial, understanding ethical practices of an organisation will sit both under the self and the opportunity parts for our decision making. Under the self element, it helps us to understand our values and our interests. And under the opportunity section, we can research the ideals and principles that a business will operate under to ensure they align with our values.
How does Swinburne convey their ethical practice? What could you find out if you were to research our university? Consider this page, for example, looking at their integrity policies. They have policies set in place to define the boundaries around different areas of business, including research, IP, compliance, and unacceptable behavior. So this could certainly be a starting point in doing some initial research. And we would like to invite you to think and reflect, what else could we consider?
When determining if an organisation fits in with our own set of values, it's important to do some research. Just as we saw on the last page, some organisations will have clearly marked policies readily available for people to read. We can also consider mission statements, corporate values, codes of conduct, codes of ethics, and other plans or strategies the organisation has in place. Another place might be to look at their social media activity. What kind of things are they posting about on LinkedIn or Instagram? Are they posting about NAIDOC Week activities, World Environment Day, or celebrating Pride Week, for example? What do these posts suggest about their position on ethical, inclusive, or sustainable practices? Let's look at some of the examples here. We see inclusion statements, corporate sustainability plans, formal acknowledgements. Consider the logos and symbols too. What do these tell us when they are included on websites? And how readily available this information is also gives us some ideas about the organisation's ethical work practices. Are their policies, value or mission statement on clear display and easily accessible, or completely hidden in their website, or absent altogether? We also need to consider how reliable this information is. Greenwashing, for example, is a growing problem as organisations seek to demonstrate or advertise their environmental sustainability practices. This is where it pays to look beyond the logos and dig a little deeper into the organisation's practices. As you can imagine, there are risks to running an unethical workplace. For organisations, there are issues with compliance, ensuring legality of operations, losing trust between a company and its consumers, loss of reputation, and the ability to recruit quality workers who don't wish to work for a place with a bad name. For workers, there are potentially workplace health and safety issues if a business cuts corners, for example, on its safety practices. It may be difficult for a worker to be able to do the job or deliver the service if they are hindered by poor workplace practices. There is also bad reputation by association. Sometimes just being linked to a certain organisation can suggest to others that the worker also represents the same values or lack of that organisation. Low job satisfaction and lacking a sense of belonging with an unethical organisation also pose risks to the employee.
In thinking about acting ethically at work, I want to introduce you to the idea of the deliberate professional. A deliberate professional is someone who can think of for themselves, consider others, and it's interested to explore with others how things could be otherwise. Based on these conscious and thoughtful collective deliberations, they see possibilities in how to be and act in the world. Deliberate professionals make conscious choices. They take a stance, commit to action, and tackle responsibility for the consequence of their actions. Now the question is, how can you contribute to this? What does being a conscious professional entail? For you, it could include developing a professional identity and practice that aligns with your values, interests, and intentions, learning how to be a professional in your field and thinking critically about what you do and how you do it, and thinking about how things could be done differently to be more inclusive and sustainable.
So how can we work towards becoming a deliberate professional? Recognizing and identifying ethical issues in practice is the first step. Consider your own experience in your internship. What have you identified as a work practice that could be improved? You may not be in a position in your internship to make changes or suggestions, but in future jobs you will be. So start looking around, noticing how things are done in your workplace with a view to making things run with fairness, integrity, and transparency. Think about your role as the deliberate professional, about how you can do the good work, and you'll be well on track to working ethically.
This brings us to an end of today's summary video. Our next one will look at networking. Looking forward to meeting you all in our interactive tutorial class to practice these career-focused concepts. Thank you. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Bita.